Hi again then guys, and welcome to another episode, if you will, of Leash the Beast. And for any who are perhaps newer to this series, basically what we do here is we take some of the most difficult or challenging cars of all of Gran Turismo's multiple categories of vehicle, race car, road car, etc., and we bring it under submission. We make that car controlled. We stop it from being anywhere near as challenging as it initially was. And as I've mentioned in this series before, the best way I believe to do that is to make the car controllable at the highest level of its possible tuning. Because the way I see it, if you can make a car controlled at the highest level of its tune, then anything less will be easier. So that's exactly what we've done again for another well-known challenging car, the Lamborghini Diablo GT2, which is by far the twitchiest of all of the Diablos for sure, possibly even all of the Lamborghinis. Now, having a car with 1057 horsepower is tricky enough when it's a Diablo, but I've taken it one step further, because as you can see I've put it on sport soft tyres. So having all that power going through those tyres with what is already a very, very sketchy handling car should really prove whether or not we've brought it under control. So primarily, this tuning is for the suspension and the diff. Everything else is purely down to whatever PP or power you plan to have the car at. So the power settings, the weight settings, the gearbox settings that I've used are irrelevant. You just put those at whatever you need them to be at. So for the suspension, we've got the ride height as low as possible on the front, 10mm higher on the back. The springs we've rounded off to 1675 and 2725. The dampers and anti-roll to 4. Perhaps a surprisingly low amount of camber for this car, only 1 degree front and rear, because I'm a huge proponent, as I've mentioned before, of not using any more camber than is necessary. We've got neutral toe. As I said, the gearbox doesn't really matter, so just fit whatever gearbox you need for it. For the diff, I've put the initial torque as high as possible to really stiffen up that steering, and then acceleration and braking I've got as low as possible. Feel free to play around with that if it's not quite to your specifications or driving style. As far as the power, as I said, build it to whatever level you need. I've just fitted everything. And as far as the downforce, we've gone as high as possible, and again we've got the full weight loss package. Now if you want to improve the car even more, you can put a little bit of ballast over the front end of the car, because the weight distribution on this car is very heavily geared towards the back, but that's not entirely necessary. This tune doesn't use that. So that's it overall for this Leash the Beast build. So now let's take it out to the Nuremberg Ring of all places, not exactly the kind of place where you'd usually want to drive this car, to see what kind of difference it's made. Now obviously fitting this car with sport soft tyres running 1050 horsepower through them is not the ideal scenario for getting the quickest of lap times. But the purpose of fitting those sport soft tyres was not to show how quick this car can be. It was to show how much control we have added to it. So of course if you go for racing softs, it will be even quicker and even better. But overall, the handling improvement to this car, primarily the control improvement, is massive. This car is one of the strangest cars in the game in terms of handling. It has a front end which is completely unpredictable. It slips around all over the place. Now it handles much more like a conventional GT1, GT2 car, and although the handling isn't necessarily perfect, and I wouldn't tell you to expect it to be, it is so much better than before, to the point where now you can actually take this car, even in its fully tuned form, even on tyres which are technically under par, and still expect to be competitive. So if you do decide to use this build, obviously I hope you find it fun, and it's a lot more competitive than it was before. And if you'd like to keep up with other builds like this in the future, be sure to hit subscribe down below to see those as soon as they're released. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.